On Thursday, July 25th, 2024, and we will call the Bradenton Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have no citizen comments.
No, sir.
All right. Consent agenda. The chair will enter.
Let's see. I would like to move item B off of the consent. The contract for this is for the land trust, correct? Am I getting the right thing? I want to pull that off.
Yes,
the
that's
consent
correct.
agenda. I think that's a big deal.
So are you making a motion to?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda A and C.
There's a motion.
Second?
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes. And now item 4B.
Yeah, I have expressed previously when we had a presentation, my concerns about land trusts. I mean, I know they're kind of a new thing in Florida and they're getting started. I mean, obviously I have a bias as a realtor, but I believe in property ownership. And that's the way, that is one of the main ways that people are able to build generational wealth. And I don't believe I just believe it's, this is going to sound silly, but anti-American for the government to own the land. You need to own your land. And so the whole idea of a land trust goes against me. And while I like some of the projects that we've talked about, I'm very uncomfortable with a land trust. I think it's counterintuitive. As I've said, people will be better stewards of their property if they know that they're building their own value. And when you take away their chance to increase the value because you're telling them it has to stay affordable, you're kind of, to me, this is just counterintuitive, and it's very new in Florida. And I did actually go and speak to some of the leadership at the Real Estate Association, and they're very divided on it. They weren't going to come out in favor or against. So I definitely don't want to do it on consent agenda, and I'd like to see us delve into land trusts a little bit farther, because I'm not comfortable with it yet.
Okay, so your argument of not being able to build generational wealth, wouldn't free Floridians be able to then potentially purchase other property that wouldn't be in a land trust? I mean, not all property in the CRAs is going to be in a land trust, correct?
We are committing a lot of incentives, from what I'm gathering, to build these homes. And that's another thing. When we get to that, I think we need to look at some of the things that we're telling them in the name of having an affordable house, what you're doing. And I think it's a great, I definitely want to help people attain an affordable, quality home. Because like I said, I believe that is one of the basic tenets for people to build a future for their generations. I mean, I'm 100% in favor of that. But I think that you're almost handicapping them with the land trust. I'd rather give them the property. I don't like the government owning the land. We all see how easy it is for us to sell the land once we own it. I just don't think that, I'm just philosophically not in favor of government being in control of the land. And if we're truly wanting to make I think this is going to be a substantial investment. These homes are not going to be inexpensive. And I just would prefer that we look into that land trust more before we do that. I don't have enough convincing me that I can be in favor of it. That's all I'll say.
I'll let staff take it over.
Okay. So this agreement is with the Florida Housing Coalition. So to what your point, this agreement is to have them help us understand the land trust more, get more information, what it would take to establish. The government doesn't necessarily have to own the land. We can have a different community land trust. There's community land trusts out there already that are not government. Government usually doesn't hold the stewardship or the land trust. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be government owned, but there is an opportunity to do that as well. But this agreement is with the Florida Housing Coalition to go through the different options we would have for the community land trust and give us all the information we needed. This is not saying that we're going to necessarily do a community land trust, but it's the training to know how to do it, if we wanted to do it, how to establish it, and move forward with that.
I would,
Go ahead.
I would say that I agree that I think this will help us better understand it. And to your point about being reluctant, I think this training will help us get up to that point. Until we're actually conveying property into this land trust, I think your point remains open for discussion. You know, like, we could go through this workout and decide it's not the thing that we understood it to be. And, you know, maybe more of us will share those concerns and then not go through with it. But I think I think it's worthwhile to educate ourselves, to your point, a little bit more about even, I mean, and this is new to me too. I mean, I've never participated in one like this. So I also feel like I could be educated on it. But right now, my initial thought is it's almost like a spectrum. So we're like, you know, there's public housing, I guess you could say, government, and then we're, you know, yes, it's not complete, you know, I own my single family residence, because I completely agree with you on generational wealth, 100% as a philosophy. So I feel like this is kind of landing in the middle, and and you all correct me if I'm wrong since you've dived deeper, I'm almost likening it to I don't know what the most appropriate phrase is, but like a mobile home park, where you own your structure. I know, it's not that I'm trying to make that, like, let's do that, but just in that spectrum of home ownership, I know, I'm not saying that's what we should do, but I am kind of saying on that spectrum of what you own, like, in my mind, I'm thinking it's not one or the other. We're kind of like, we're in a gray area that I don't know enough about in that middle lane. So I'm agreeable to learning more. And to alleviate your concern, I would say, until we are, you know, directing Chair Kramer to sign a deed conveying property into the trust, it's negotiable, whether we do it or not.
Okay.
And I hate to be like so basic, but in all honesty, if you don't pay your property taxes, who gets it? I mean, do we really own our properties? Because, you know, you're taxed on it, and if you don't pay it, you lose it. So I'm just saying, that's a basic thing, but I also agree we need to, you know, fully understand what this is, you know, and who owns and who, you know.
Mr.
I agree.
Yes, ma'am?
I saw this as a service agreement to provide more education to us and to help us get a good understanding of what it is. And after that, if we don't think it's going to work for us, we just don't do it.
I agree.
But I'm willing to look at any and all opportunities that can be afforded to people in the CRA. I'm not willing to be the gatekeeper saying, well, you know, they're starting something new, but I liken it to when Mr. Rossi, who started Tropicana, came through the downtown business district looking for investors, and my grandparents turned him down.
Well, I guess my question would be for Mr. Rudisell, are we only obligated to basically have them educate us on this? Because when I'm looking in here, it says project duties, project leadership for administration of the project direction and expertise on developing residential units. So it's not actually doing the projects, it's just learning about how, if you want to do the projects, you're going to do it.
And that's not the way I read the proposal. It shows step one as being essentially creating the land trust. So, no, I think, I'm sure that part of what they're going to be doing is explaining to the board and looking at the different options and things like that, but literally phase one is creating land trust and organizing the board. So if you're looking for more of a, you know, what has been discussed, I think we need a different proposal.
Okay.
Well, I would be comfortable with, I don't know if we should spend $75,000 to be educated on it, but I, like I said, I'm just not convinced yet that we need to do a land trust. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Russo, I agree with you that's creating the land trust, but if it's not holding title to any property, is it really like, you know, I mean, to your point, we're spending $75,000, and, you know, that might be a bit much to then say, oh, we don't want to do it. But that's my understanding, is if we create it, we can create it, we can go through the work of figuring out how we would set it up if we were going to do it, but until we actually title property in it, isn't there still time to?
Yeah, I mean, the CRA wouldn't have any additional skin in the game at that point than just what they paid to create it if they decided not to put any property into the trust or pursue it any further.
So, first of all, the first step under phase one in organizing a CLT is determining the CRA's goals for the CLT. We are and have been under the impression that either you create one or you join one. So phase one isn't just creating a CLT, it's determining whether we even want to create one, which Chris and I, since day one, we've been leaned more toward joining one, because it's a lot of extra overhead to create one, and there are partners out there in Manatee County. Manatee County itself is looking at a land trust, and land trusts are not subject to jurisdictions. A land trust for CRAs could be statewide in the end. So finding out what the goals are for us determines which direction we go in. What is it that we want a land trust to do for us? And then they're going to help us determine. Now, at any point during this time, if the board says, well, okay, we've learned enough, this is not where we want to go. And by the way, it's not a mobile home park. Don't want to create another stigma.
You're right, I know, exactly. Don't misunderstand, please.
So to me, the goals of what we want to learn specifically, long-term affordability. If we leave it to the market, then we will be doing what we've always done and expecting a different result. And do I have to tell you what that's the definition of? Insanity. The market works on profitability. And that's great. That's how we got here. That's how we have built our society, right? But at the same time, we have a problem, and that is a lack of affordable, long-term affordable, not just rental apartments, but home ownership. And the solution in the past, and I'm one of the people that did it, was build government housing. And USDA, HUD, you know, and in the long term, that creates blight, because you're building, you know, it's a government product. You're building the cheapest house you can on the cheapest piece of property you can, and a lot of those units then turn over to be rentals. When the market goes up, people sell them for the profitability, and then that home is now lost to affordability forever, because now it is part of the market, the stream in the market. We feel, and then with rentals, whether you realize it or not, the units that are being put out, including units that use Section 8, they only have to be affordable for a certain number of years. And if the market changes for the better, the owners have a choice after 15 years, I believe, to then re-up for another 15 years for a maximum of 30, or to just go flat out market. And I can tell you that I sat in Tampa for a couple years in a very strong market, and ownership in those rental units did not want to continue to stay affordable because it was more profitable to go market. And you can't kick people out. You can't just tell people you can't live here, but you can raise their rents. And that's where we had an hour and a half public comments every meeting of folks begging for affordable housing. So with the land trust, we're looking at how do we keep this home affordable, affordable, affordable? How do we put a cost of living on the house, the structure, so that whoever lives in it walks away with profitability, but not to the point of making the house not affordable? And because we need to really think about that long-term affordability. Long-term maintenance. I'll be happy to take pictures of some I drove through them like last week of in the past, entities that build homeownership affordable units will create not a land trust, but a homeowners association, an HOA. And more often than not, HOAs in these types of developments fail because the folks that are living there are working very hard to just pay their mortgage. And they might not even understand what an HOA is supposed to do. And a land trust is another form of an HOA, not a mobile home park.
Thank you.
And it's set up to maintain the outside so that you don't have the whole subdivision crumbling around you because of lack of leadership in the homeowners. That's another area we want to look at. We also want to look at the other folks that may be able, other entities that may be able to partner with us to fund these, because you're right. If it was just on the CRA to provide incentives, we could do that, but we don't have to do that. We have things like SHIP, which provides the homeowner with homeowner equity and closing costs, but they have to qualify for that. We have CDBG. Yesterday, you went through a process with your CDBG, which is like $400,000 a year. We actually got an application this year, and we were going to fill it out to partner with CDBG on affordable housing ownership, this particular, but we weren't ready yet. And so we decided to just leave them alone this year and come back next year. And guess what? They were excited about it. They're like, yes, we can, in our area, we can help you with that. So the other one is, and there are others. There are resiliency, since we're addressing resiliency. One of the areas we also want to look at is something I know that's near and dear to any realtor in the state of Florida is insurance premiums.
Well, I've got some comments to make.
Right? And how do we build a home that at least through what used to be Citizens and now is whatever they call it, whatever the state of Florida program is, how do we guarantee or better guarantee that we can get lower premiums for the homeowners? Because I have heard from numerous people on the board and other folks that, forget the mortgage, the insurance is the problem. So these are all the things that we are asking for help with. I did double check to make sure the city was a member of the Florida Housing Coalition, which they are. So the CRA does not have to become a member, but I guarantee you we will be going to engage them on all of these issues. And this is where we want to, when we approach them, how do you want to do this? This is the way they said to do it. We don't know if we want to create a land trust. We don't know if we want to join a land trust. We're leaning that direction. But we need the board to know the benefits, all of the benefits, long-term benefits of having a land trust. And if the board feels like, no, we don't need that, then, one other nice thing about land trusts is land trusts tend to be a remedy to the evil tax collector in Manatee County, who, as you know, if you do not pay your taxes, they will put you on the list And then there are people who are bidding to pay your taxes. And after 3 years, if the same person does it, then they can take it to foreclosure. This is also a remedy to Volcker and code enforcement, because if you have somebody maintaining the outside, then it's more likely that Volcker will pass over and not bless them with his presence. And I wouldn't want him, because he is very good at his job. So these are all the ideas and thoughts that, and you know, I have these, and then Chris has the real estate ones, and how do we do this? What about that? And we've got to work this stuff out, and we've got to come up with a program, policy, if we do a land trust that, you know, addresses as many of these issues as we can, and that's where we're headed. So I will say this, in our grand scheme of things with building a prototype home, we're right where we should be. I mean, we have 2 tracks, the home and the land. And while we're doing the home, we need to get the land. I got a little worried for a little bit, and then Chris got all this worked out with the land trust folks. And we can even bring in some other folks that actually run land trusts. Have Camille Reynolds, Hannibal Square. She's an excellent person to bring in and talk to. She's in the Orlando area. She's a CRED graduate from USF. But I usually call her when I have, and if I can get her here, I'd be happy to get her here. She's really good at educating on a land trust and what it's all about. So we're just asking that move forward. Let's learn, and at any point, you know, nope, Jeff, we don't want to do this, then we'll come up with some other way.
It does have, if I'm not mistaken, a 30-day clause
It does.
that allows us to be invoiced for any work done to that point. So the $75,000 is due upon completion of all services over a 2-year span. So, okay. Any further discussion? All right. Chair will entertain a motion to pass item 4B from the consent agenda.
Move to approve the contract with the Florida Housing Coalition with the understanding that we can stop at any point with a 30-day notice.
That's part of the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none? We'll do a vote by roll call. Ms. Barnaby?
Yes.
Ms. Coker?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ms. Coachman?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Moore? All right, passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item 5A, all CRA districts, the CRA, BPD,
Mr. Chairman,
community
did we
policing.
approve the consent agenda?
Yes, we,
Yes.
Yes, we
A
did.
and C we did.
Okay.
A and C. Then we pulled B, but we approved A and C, and then not by roll call that time. All right. 5A, the BPD fiscal year 24-25 community policing funding request.
Go ahead, you started.
I'll start it, I guess.
They were here and then they left, I guess.
Oh.
I think something came up.
Hi, good morning. Chris Mignon, CRA Manager. As part of our new requirements, we're asking the departments to fill out a interdepartmental application for funding. So asking for funding from the CRA. First people to do it was the Bradenton Police Department. We have a great relationship with them and the community policing staff. So the funding you've seen, and then we have Chief Evan. We have a presentation by BPD to talk about the funding request.
He's on his way, but I'm the chief and I'll figure it out.
don't ask me too many questions. I'm going to start talking really slow until he gets here. Oh, here it is. I don't know how to work. Okay, so I just click, left click. I'm sorry. When I'm ready to move ahead,
Should we move on and come back to it?
as you know, we're rolling into our second year of funding, or at least this type of request of funding for CRA officers. We've kind of gone back and forth on funding for the various areas. There was a time when we were just focusing on downtown. We expanded it to 3 officers in each of the CRAs, and just last year we expanded it to 6. And that was all good and fine, but it was difficult for me to keep that staffing model up, really just because of some of our issues with staffing that amazingly and surprisingly not were cured when our PBA contract with those significant raises were passed last year. I'm very happy to report that for the second time, because it lasted about a day a few years ago, BPD is fully staffed. We are fully staffed with a waiting list. Yesterday, right before the council meeting, I went and spoke to, I think there was 10 folks doing the PT test, and these are people looking to go to the academy that starts in January. So we have a lot of folks even looking ahead, trying to join our ranks, and these are quality folks. If you guys were at the last swearing in, very impressive, and we have a group, 4 of them starting the academy here in 3 weeks, and they're going through the pre-academy right now, and it's, again, a very strong, diverse group that's just going to add some quality. So that being said, focusing on the CRA partnership, what's happening with our CRA officers, which, by the way, it is fully staffed at this point. We have 6 officers filling in, and 2 in each of the CRAs. What you may not be able to see on a daily basis, I certainly can. As Mr. Kramer has always heard me say, if you don't measure it, it doesn't matter. And so we do a lot of measurements to make sure that all our goals and objectives are being met. We constantly monitor their productivity, their contacts. We have requirements of daily initiatives that they have to go through, and I really think we've hit it and then some. I will tell you, I know sometimes when my CRA folks are on vacation, because my phone lights up with complaints. What's going on here? What's going on there? Particularly on the Riverwalk, they have formed some good relationships, and so I think the first thing they tell everybody is, please don't call the chief. If there's a problem, call me. Because, when you call the chief, then it's going to go down 3 people, and I'm going to get called anyway. And apparently that model has worked. So, I think that we're engaging well with our citizens, and I think we've accomplished some good things. With the addition of our community response team, you're seeing triple the number of narcotics arrests within the city over the past 3 months, triple. Our forfeiture seizures have gone up. Our drug seizures, I'm not allowed to talk about it in a press release type situation, but I will tell you that the most significant narcotic seizure of methamphetamine occurred last week within the city. Was probably one of the most significant seizures of meth within the state of Florida. And it's probably up there within this part of the U.S. Now, that's not to say that this was a point of distribution, but it shows you what's happening in our city and what we're attacking. Our CRA officers helped with that operation, and so we're doing some great things. So, no, he said to hit this one. So these are some of the accomplishments. I didn't really get to speak about it yesterday, but you approved it yesterday in part. The homeless outreach case manager, that's a position that I asked for last year that would be partially funded by opioid monies. I think, I know I heard somebody say yesterday that we're not doing anything as a city to help addiction problems, when that's just absolutely incorrect. We onboarded a case manager that focuses on homeless, but we all know that homeless is an avenue that starts oftentimes with addiction. And so we've got a person, I send it to Dr. Burton, monthly, great measurements, great stats. There was in your packet success stories that show you what we're accomplishing there. We onboarded that person with an agreement to carry it for 2 years, and so once again, I'm asking for half of that salary. You approved the other half yesterday. We have a fully staffed CRA, as I mentioned. We have obtained all the CRA vehicles, but we just actually obtained them. It took many, many months to get them, and now we're in the process of striping them. You may see the trucks out there. It's kind of a, first off, pickup trucks are a little bit cheaper, but it's a different look, and I like that look. I like that the CRA vehicles look different than everybody else's, and I think it's a good visual for you. You see a pickup truck out there, you're going to know that that's one of your CRA officers. We've conducted several large-scale operations. We have really upped our working with business licensing with the business trespass program. I know we've doubled that in the past few months. We've got another volunteer on board that's accomplishing that. Our goals for 2025, you all have done a great job of training our folks in SEPTED. As you know, there's a new Florida State statute out, and Dr. Burton probably knows a little bit more about it, that a lot of the communities condos are going to have to do that if they're below a certain age, like 20 years or so. And he has suggested some great ideas on how to use maybe some CRA money to not only meet those standards and requirements, but to also make them more visually nicer. I don't know the word, make some of the properties around the CRAs look a little bit better, working with our officers who are now trained in SEPTED. And when I say they're trained, I'm sending these folks, or you guys are sending these folks to, I think it's 150 hours to get that designation. And so it's not just, hey, put a light bulb here and cut this grass. It's a designation that takes quite a while to get. So the budget details, what we're asking for this year is for you all to approve 95% of the 6 CRA officers. We know that 5%, is probably things that sometimes from time to time we just need to pull officers for emergencies or whatnot. They are CRA officers, but please don't think that if an emergency happened, if a crisis happens, we all come together. We all go running out of the station, and so we wanted to account for that. We also put in 50% of supervisory salary. He's probably spending about 80% of his time focusing on the CRA officers, but again, this was a little bit of a negotiation with Chris and Jeff. Next year I'm going to ask for a lot more. 50% of the caseworker, as I said, that's already being covered. Training's being covered at $15,000. The SEPTED is expensive. We've got a few new officers filling those CRA positions. It's unfortunate, but sometimes officers move on to different things. You've paid for some of the training. It still can benefit the CRA. We can still use those folks for the CRA SEPTED, but we're just advancing that as well. So that's it. So my ask is the city of Bradenton is budgeted for 126 officers. Those are 126 officers who police the entire city of Bradenton. They engage in activities throughout the entire city. It meets the national threshold standards of 2.1 per 1,000 citizens. That's what every police department tries to accomplish. 126 fills that mark. And that's what we need, I feel, and it's not just what I feel, research shows, to do the job, right? These CRA officers aren't part of that mix because you all asked for something more. You wanted more attention, you wanted more focused policing in areas that needed it the most. You wanted more non-traditional policing. You wanted them to get out of their cars and serve as the eyes and ears and mouthpiece of the police department, and they are doing just that. They are accomplishing just that. And for the first time, we're not struggling in some of the other areas of staffing. And so I really feel that this year you're going to see even more. And so I want to hear your ask. I want to hear your concerns. I want to hear your complaints. If you feel like you want the CRA officers to be focusing on something different, something more, something else, now's the time, or over the next year, to just let me know that, because we got them out there, we got them doing things, and they're there to help these areas achieve some good things.
I'll start. Yeah, I'm not trying to delay for you. Because I don't know that, yeah. I know you don't handle the scheduling, but what, with now 2 officers in every district, along with the community response team, what type of scheduling are you all planning? And is it more of like a hot situation to adjust?
I'll tell you, that's been a little difficult, and I'll tell you why. I know none of you all, when you were growing up within your business communities, had 12-hour workdays, but the folks love those workdays. They get a third more time off. They're really conducive to family life, and they work for us for staffing levels. They don't always work when I'm trying to have a lot of visibility in specific areas. And so what we've evolved to is a mission-based idea. The first thing they ask when they put in for these specialized units is, what is the schedule? And particularly in the CRA, and what we're now telling them is it's mission-based. I'm gonna use Officer Caleb Losick, who works downtown, for example. We've had some issues downtown on Friday and Saturday nights with the bar, so we understood that we needed to put some additional resources down there. So not only have I had him working down there downtown, we've also been bolstering that with some overtime officers from throughout the city. I've been paying 12 hours overtime for 2 officers for the past 2 months, and I anticipate doing that for the rest of the summer because I think downtown needs it. But Officer Losick realized that he works in that CRA. That was one of his areas that he needed to focus on. So unfortunately for him, his schedule has been 3 8s, and then on Friday and Saturday night, 2 4s. Not the best schedule in the world, but it's mission-based. We need you to accomplish this, do what it takes to get the job done. Within another CRA, we've had officers 1 or 2 weeks that are working 12s together because the nature of their work makes it safer for them to work together. They're making drug arrests. They're going hands-on with a lot of people. I don't want them out there by themselves. Or they're working 410s. Back to downtown, or back to 14th Street, for the most part, they're working opposites because it works. But when we do the next human trafficking week-long operation, they're going to come together. And so I will tell you that it's flexible, it's mission-based, it's whatever we need to do to get the job done. And it seems to be working that way. But, if it needs to change, it needs to change. They weren't told they're going to be on 12s. They weren't told they're going to be on 10s. They were told whatever you need to do to get the job done. I was reared with a lot of freedom when community policing first started. And believe it or not, it worked. Sometimes when you allow cops to get out there and have some freedom and you just give them the parameters of what they need to get done, they'll get it done. Now, they'll get it done sooner so that then they can have time to do the stuff that they want to do, but that's good, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am?
I want to say that I have been very pleased with the response that we've gotten and the work in the CRA areas. There's been several times where I've seen something and I've called someone and it was taken care of almost immediately. And I know in the Village of the Arts, a lot of the artists / homeowners there are they sing the CRA people's praises all the time. I can't go anywhere without them saying something to me in the Village of the Arts. I like the pickup trucks because, as you know, when you're dealing with individuals that don't have homes, they come with a lot of stuff. And if you're trying to get them services or get them somewhere where they can get services, it doesn't always fit in the back of a sedan. So I think that's a smart idea. I've been a huge proponent of SEPTED, so I'm very happy to see that we've got people certified in that, and I think that will go a long way to helping us fight some of these things that cause blight and slum and that sort of thing by helping property owners design it or fix it so that they don't automatically become victims just because of the environmental design. And again, we've got a report here for June where we've had 2 situations where people that were down here that were homeless have been reunited with their family. And I don't know that that would have happened without these officers and them getting to know the officers. So I'm very happy with the results. I want to see it kept up. And one officer in particular always takes my call, and one day he was off and he was having lunch with his mother, but he still took my call. Well, you know, moms are sacred, and police officer moms are even above that because they raise someone that wants to serve others and protect others. So I was like, I will call someone else. You stay at lunch with your mother. You know, time with your mother is precious because we all don't stay around for a long time. So that really, really touched me, and I really appreciated him doing that.
And I appreciate you mentioning that. In this era of, well, it's just a different era, this generation, one of the requirements for them is that you pick up your phone. If somebody calls, you know, we expect you to pick up your phone even if you're off. You know, there's going to be instances where you can't, but even if you're going to do the handoff, hey, I'm on vacation, I'm off, I'm whatever. And so that's good to hear. It's,
Yeah.
I think that just speaks to these folks really, you know, taking ownership of what they're doing. I wanted to mention something, because I haven't mentioned this in front of y'all. I want you to be aware of this. About a month ago, I believe we posted on our Facebook, but the University Women's Club came, and this is the 3rd year in a row. They swear it's the last, but every year I've begged, and apparently I begged pretty good this last year. They've been the ones giving us those Publix gift cards to provide to homeless individuals, families in need. And boy, some of the stories that come with that have been absolutely incredible. We made it a point to share those stories. And so the first 2 years, we got about 4,000, 5,000. And the mayor as well knows, I mean, we've used those cards at the Halloween event out at the fairgrounds, and you can tell a family in need, right? We all can just look at them and say, boy, I'm going to give them a lollipop, and I'm going to give that mom a Publix gift card. This year they came and gave us $20,000 worth of Publix gift cards. $20,000. And obviously the group that I'm focusing on to really do wonderful things with those cards, which I hold very tightly in my office, and I, you know, I'm kind of cheap, and I just don't want to, I don't want to be frivolous about it, but those 6 officers and Officer Poulos and the case manager have full access to those. And so think about the impact of $20,000, and we let them know, by the way, that the closest Publix over in Palmetto, we give them those gift cards, and we're really making a difference in those areas. So I don't know if you guys knew that.
No, we didn't.
It's amazing.
Gave me chills.
I was happy to be part of the first, you know, meeting with that group on the first one, but 20,000's amazing. Good. Any other comments for the chief?
All I can say
Your
is-
backup has arrived, but
Yes.
but you can tell them
Timing
this
is everything.
to, you know,
Stand down.
yeah. I wasn't going to say it. I'll let you say it. All right.
We need a vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to move approval of the funding request from the Bradenton Police Department for the community policing for fiscal year 2024-2025 in the amount up to 800, and I can't read numbers, they transpose on me. In the amount as presented, I'm sorry. Yeah,
$806.69.
yes.
Second.
I didn't want to read the number in wrong and then it be a problem.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. And if I can just say,
Good.
I'm going on my 9th year here. I've worked with the CRA since the moment I got in here, and I will tell you that you're a trifecta right here.
Yes.
It's a great team. They're approachable. We have good, candid conversations. There's no backdooring. There's no anything that's not transparent. They have a strong, solid process now, and it's really a pleasure to work alongside them.
Well, thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, speaking of that, that was one of the first things this staff told me when I came was we need to reconnect with the city because we can't do it. We don't have police officers. We need to work with the police department. The application that you saw is an application that has gone around the entire city. It's an application to start with, and when the board approves it, it becomes a interlocal agreement between the CRA and each department. That's in place now. So as of today, starting October 1st, we have an interlocal agreement with the Bradenton Police Department for our funding. The reports that we have been receiving have been the best I have seen of any police department and to a CRA in the state. So you can expect that at the annual report that we have to have up and running by April 1st, that they will be included. What they send us, we collect, and they will be included in that to show that measurement that you were talking about. We are working with them. We do have a SEPTED grant that's in our current grant portfolio, 15,000? Yes. Up to 15,000. We actually have had a request, and the police department has already been to the site and provided the report. Anything that the business is to do on that list, the CRA can pay up to 50% for, up to $15,000. So that's SEPTED in action, funded through a CRA. We are also talking with them, and I don't know if the chief, she's gone. She's okay. We're working with them to come to you and ask for a very specialized, limited time only, Ronco special, private eyes. They have a system by which they can tie into private business cameras, and up to 4 if they're using a certain kind of a box that's tied into their system. And we are proposing that the CRA pay for the box and 3 years of subscription to the business itself. And that way it ties those cameras into the city's network of cameras that they can see. And the police department would go out and they would figure out highest priorities, locations, and offer that, and then they would come in and we would cover the expense of installing it. So those cameras now become, they're on private property. There is an agreement with the private property, which I think we already have that agreement in place. PD does. It would tie into our network of cameras for us to use to help the police department put eyes throughout the whole entire CRA area. Very inexpensive grant, by the way. It's $850.
Like $800.
Yeah. So we're working with that. Just so you know, also, this is the first year that we're proposing sinking funds for all 3 CRAs. One of the sinking funds is for long-term sustainable policing past the lifespan of the CRA. So we will be bringing those to you in the budget. Once set up and invested in, the next year we will start seeing the benefits of that, and every year that we invest in it, it will grow. We're also proposing a cost of living long-term, in the 5-year budget for policing and for the other city departments, whatever the cost of living is based on some national third-party standard of increasing, so it's not every year it's the same thing or it's some large amount, but it's just, for instance, it could be 4% next year growth. And that way it helps the CRA with our budget because then we know what we're looking at well in advance. And then finally, with all of these things that you're hearing, all these new ideas, the connection, the partnership with PD, I will make sure not only that we, in 2025 at the FRA conference, submit to do a class on CRAs and partnerships with the police department, where the Bradenton CRA and the Bradenton Police Department come and explain and show all the documentation and how we do what we do, so that other CRAs can learn from the city of Bradenton. And maybe we'll even throw in a application for an award next year, because we'll have enough grants out there and enough data to show where we're heading with it. So that would be appropriate for us to do, taking a leadership role. That's it.
All right, thank you. Agenda item 5B,
So the gift that keeps on giving, we all retired Jean G at the last meeting, and she's still here. I don't think she's going to leave, so we get a benefit for that. And in her last hurrah, she has produced some really great public art, and has some more surprises for you along upcoming that she's leaving as a parting gift. But in looking at her position, I mean, I appreciate the fact, believe me, I appreciate the fact that the city of Bradenton committed a full-time position in the CRAs just for public art. And that's great. And I think that and hopefully Jean G would agree that with bringing in outside people like me, it kind of helps that. It's like a telescope. Now you have two lenses focusing on it, and it's much more powerful. In that, and knowing that, and bringing what I bring in public art to the city, and in hiring a new person, we would like to change the position from just public art to a redevelopment coordinator that would not only have public art, Chris will be involved with public art, I'll be involved with public art, KK will be involved with public art. But it will also help us with the housing, help us with grants, help us with writing minutes. Because right now, Chris is writing minutes, and I have bigger plans for Chris than writing minutes. So I think right now we're wasting talent there. And if we found someone, brought someone in, start training them up through CRA, that would be a really great use of their time, is because we now have 5 meetings. Now KK does the CRA meetings, but we have 3 CACs and the Public Art Board. So we would like to adjust. We're not adjusting the salary, but we are adjusting the scope and taking it just from public art to everything under the redevelopment. And this will also help us, as one of the board members said, no new hires, Jeff. No new hires. So we are being more efficient with our resources, and I would ask that you approve the new job description. As soon as you do, we will put it out and begin the process to find someone to hire. Thank you.
any questions for Dr. Burton on that? All right. Chair will entertain a motion to approve item 5B.
So move.
There's a motion from Ms. Moore.
Second.
And a second from Ms. Coachman. Any further discussion? No? Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Lane and mean.
Any other discussion or new business?
Just a couple things, quick. I know we're all kind of worn out from yesterday.
Minutes.
First of all, change is change is tough, It always is. I always preach it, but when I have to do it, Paige will tell you, he doesn't like it.
Only thing that
Yesterday
likes
was about
change is the rate
change.
that we
What I
get
heard
paid.
from the board yesterday at one point was, this is a direction we're heading in. We're changing our direction, and we have to stick to it. And I appreciate that. It's not easy, especially because I've sat up in a seat like that, and it's tough. It's tough making hard choices in front of the public. Thank you very much. Budget. Was prepared just to give you a brief overview of the budget yesterday. I will not do that today, okay? You're welcome. We do have the 3 budgets. We have 5-year projected budgets, and we will go over them with you and where we're heading. You heard the city administrator say that we're following up behind City Park with all kinds of improvements in the surrounding CRA areas. We will be happy to go through that with you guys. We are trying to get on the city schedule so that we don't have to have a special CRA all-day meeting. As long as the other departments come in, like the police department has modeled. Now the police department doesn't have to come in and do a budget presentation for you. We just did it. So, and with the agreement, we have a contract. Conference is in October. It's the 23rd through the 25th?
22nd through
Okay, 22nd to the
26th.
26th, okay. Just so you know, there will be 3 classes given that the city of Bradenton will be participating in or leading, including the board training. So it is in Tampa, downtown. I would love to make a huge presence, obviously, in downtown Tampa of the city of Bradenton. We have 1 award in this year. We'd love to win that in Tampa and have all the board members and everybody else come up and accept it. Somebody is getting their certification, Chris. So we plan on making a impact at the FRA conference, and we are also inviting the CRC members to come also. So I had a good response so far from Central, and there's nothing better than coming back to a conference and having everybody go, but did you see that? But did you see that? Can we do this?
Have you sent this information to us as far as?
We will,
Okay.
we will,
I was thinking, did I
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then you heard the chief say that right now they're giving out Publix cards and they're sending them over to Palmetto. We are in agreement, we are working with
He's
the,
joking, right?
No, she wasn't.
It is
I don't know.
You don't have transportation and you don't have any,
It is actually the
So,
closest.
so we are working with the city of Palmetto and the tourism board to partner with them to extend freebie, not at our expense, but to work with them to extend freebie, because that would give CRA citizens 5 grocery stores, including a Detweiler's, to choose from. And also connect them to the convention center and the hotels, which we already have, but also our hotels to the convention center. There's a definitely a benefit to that. So while that works, we'll work on that. In the event that it does not work, and we'll sit and talk to the attorney about this, in the CRA plan, it says that if we can show the benefit to the citizens in the CRA of expending funds outside the CRA, and it's actually in the statute at least once, we would come back again with the blessing of the city attorney, pick some grocery stores closest to us in Bradenton, and say, if in the CRA, so this is something we're thinking about, just letting you know it may be coming, because we don't have the grocery stores that we need in the CRA. So instead of bringing the grocery store to the CRA, we bring the CRA to the grocery store. Just to let you know that. And we are, Chris has been working with Freebie to get analytics for the other cities. And even Manatee County has shown some interest in it. So again, Bradenton now leading the charge versus not. So we're excited about that. On applications, Public Works has submitted one. Chris has graded it and is now working with them to find out why they were doing what they were doing, what they were asking for. And Linda Guth upstairs has realized that the rest of the city, and so she has been pushing hard to make sure that code enforcement and finance and the they're all, and I think she gave us a number of them yesterday.
Yes, you did.
So they'll be on the next agenda. And other than that, we're in a good spot. We have grants coming in, big ones. They'll be coming to you. We have SEPTED grants coming in. So the grants are taken, and we also have the first incentive that you've already looked at, but it includes selling a piece of property. And that's currently with the attorneys, and hopefully will be with you next week or next month. So lots of good stuff to be thinking about in the future.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Just one little comment. It sounds great about Freebie being able to take CRA to the grocery stores, but we're still not going to lose sight of trying to bring a grocery store into CRA.
Of course, we're going to continue to work on that, and if that's something that the board feels is a priority, we can even adjust our incentives to sweeten the deal if we have a piece of property that in mind or a grocery store does come in. So not opposed. I mean, in Palmetto, they needed an emergency care center because hurricane comes, they shut down the bridges. So if you live in Palmetto, you go to Ruskin. They did put an emergency care center. I don't know if the CRA helped with that or not. But I can tell you this matter of factly, that if someone did come in and did provide the right services, that would not only benefit the CRA, but everybody north of the river. The CRA board would have said, yeah, let's up the ante to make sure that happens. So think about the priorities that you would think would be necessary in downtown. And we can put together, as you're going to learn with this new privatized thing with the police department, we may even bring in a new specialized grant for businesses like on Main Street to update their SEPTED and things as part of the post-midnight permit that you were talking about yesterday. We will ask the board to create special one-time opportunities. They'll be time-driven. You have a year to do it, and if you do, it's added benefit. So because it's things that we really need to see happen, change fast. So just be thinking of, and also obviously be thinking of things you don't want, uses you don't want in your CRA. And I would tell you this, if the city council would have approved a use yesterday, that I think that the CRA board would probably not want to give a grant to, I would have come in today and asked you just to give us a vote to say, when it comes to all of our grants, when it comes to this use is excluded. And I probably would have had to talk to Scott about that first. But just to make sure that if someone came in and asked for a grant, because the city approved it doesn't necessarily mean we have to issue that grant. So it's the CRA's money. So that's where we are. Trying to keep it short because I know we're all like wasted, so.
Too late. Any other questions or comments?
One last thing, in the budgets, just so I can put it out there into the universe, we have $1 million budgeted for Love Park, and KK informed me that next week, the 6-foot beautiful wrought iron decorative fence will be going in. So that the old one comes out, the new one comes in. It's part of the new development. It's beautiful, but it's also focuses you. At some point, you're going to come into a gate, and we will, guess what? The police department will be working with us on SEPTED on that park, and I'm sure there'll be a sign that says, "Welcome to Love Park. We see you." And so we want people to know that we are monitoring that public space. It's very important that we do that.
And I think that people that will be using the park will like that sense of safety as well.
I hope that what it does, it turns it into a neighborhood park that the neighborhood feels safe using, and they don't feel like, they're taking a risk being there, and it'll be well lit. I can tell you this, that we told this to Central. We received our first invoice from the designer. It was only $4,500 or so, but they're collecting their information. They're meeting at the site. They met with Public Works. They'll meet with the police department. We want to make sure that when we create it, it's maintainable, that it's not something that, it's going to cost us an arm and a leg to maintain now. So we're really focusing on long-term sustainable costs and also benefit to the community. So we really want to make sure we get this one right. And because Clarence Love's daughters are friends of mine, and they've already made it known, it better be good.
I know the family well as well.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I just wanted to make a comment. Kind of going back to what you were talking about with the conference and inviting all of the members of the different advisory boards, I really hope we can encourage them to go. I know when I first got on the DDA back in the day, that was one of the first things they did, was I went down for that. And I mean, I want them to understand why we value so much and what they're doing, and I think that would go a long way to help them.
If this board continues to act like this board is acting, rarely have I seen a board give so much respect to an advisory board. I've worked in places where it was, go tell the advisory board what we're doing, and literally, and that's very disheartening to people that are volunteering their time.
Yeah.
They do not get paid, so this is an opportunity for them. It's fun. It's helps them out a lot. In Palmetto, we really encouraged it, and it really did pay off because everybody knew the rules. And even if I did something and they went, now remember what they said, it keeps us all accountable. So and since it's in Tampa, which is very close to us, we'll be in the process of putting that invitation out. We have one of the CAC members sitting right over there. She's probably like, I'm ready to go.
Well, that's kind of my point, rather than just, oh, here's an opportunity if you want to go. I'd like to say, this is happening, we would really encourage you to go.
Thank you for
we'd
saying
like to
that,
do that.
because I also worked in a city that had tens of millions of dollars and would not invest in sending advisory board members. And it was a fight to get even the chairman of the committees to be able to go. And it just makes very little sense to me not to invest in the folks you're relying on to make, of course, if you're that city that isn't listening to your advisory board, then I understand why you wouldn't want to send them.
Yeah.
So love the attitude and encourage it. And for the dollars spent, it's worth it, because when you are leaning on your community advisors and they know the rules, it makes things a lot easier on staff too, because then we don't have to sit there and go, no, we can't build a rocket ship to the moon. That's not in the statute. So, thank you.
Anything else? All right, we stand adjourned.